If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. From that 30-year span, I returned to Georgia State. And not only in 2022, I made the president's list. 2023, I was on the dean's list. In 2024, I graduated.
Welcome to Legacy Talk 3N. We're so glad to be back, and I'm here today with a powerful hero, father figure, wonderful husband, and his beautiful wife. And he's coming with a beautiful story of legacy, where at 72 years old, he has obtained his degree. Welcome, Mr. Henry Moore.
Thank you. Thank you, Joanna.
I am so excited to get into this conversation with you today, where not only have you earned your degree after so many years of struggling to close this circle of legacy of education with your sons, your successful sons and grandsons that you have raised, but you have sustained marriage to your teenage sweetheart, and these stories of love that you and I both can share with the world, where we have sustained 35 and 40 years of marriage. And how many years is it for you?
50.
Oh, wow. We need that. People and I need that, because people need to know that real love still lasts these days as well. And you're raising strong black men in the world that we're living in today. Just legacy all around you is living. And so I'm excited to get in all of these conversations with you, but especially the one about you closing the circle of education. So we're going to start there, because you have three sons that all got their degree, and you were determined after so many years to close that circle of legacy by obtaining your degree. And I want to start there with the conversation. And I want to know, first of all, what that moment meant to you to walk across the stage with so many barriers, with so many obstacles over the years. What did that moment, start right there, what did that moment mean to you when you walked across the stage? And to answer those two questions, what did that moment mean to you? And what do you want, getting your degree, what do you want to leave behind for your children and your grandchildren? So let's answer two questions in one. What did that moment mean? What do you want to leave behind? And what I want you, when you answer that question, I want you to remember the conversation that we had before. Your father instilled in you the meaning of, at whatever cost, finish what you start.
Right.
So he instilled that in you. Tell me, with you being able to do that, what you want to leave behind for your children and your grandchildren and anybody else that's watching and need a lesson of hope, or for you, the legacy that you want to leave behind from your story in this. So what did that moment mean to you? And what do you want to leave behind, not only for your children and your grandchildren, but anybody else who needs some hope?
Once again, thank you for the opportunity. And the first question in regard to the moment, what it meant to me, my initial reaction would be it meant everything. Just the vastness of that opportunity and for fulfilling that dream and that desire to earn my degree. Um, it's really hard to put into words, but the fact that I was able to accomplish something that that was also meant a lot to me, but it also, we talked about legacy, it created a sense of legacy within our family circle from the standpoint of being determined to finish what you start. And so from that perspective, in my early years, my dad he made a point to tell not only me, but my brother and sister about his story in regard to education and work, in that his early years, he started working when he was about 12, so he was taken out of school and did works to help his mom and other siblings. But from that experience, he always wanted each of his children to pursue higher education. And so from there, it resonated with me. So I took it upon myself to try to be one of his children who would succeed in obtaining a higher degree or education. So from there, in closing the circle, I just kind of connected the dots in the sense that what my dad had talked about and what my mom had instilled in us from the point of my wife and I's college experience and days, that we wanted to make sure and ensure that our children had the opportunity to obtain a college education. So in closing the circle, for me, the fact that our three sons were able to graduate, and then on top of that, my oldest son, my firstborn grandson, graduated, and he ended up graduating with honors. And so it was very inspiring, as well as we being proud of him, but it also inspired my wife and I to think about returning to school as well. So from a combination of that, it allowed us to gain more insight into college in the 2020s year, as opposed to when we went before, where technology was the primary driver. So we found a comfort level with that and returned. And so I think the final push was the fact that having my three sons and my grandson come and complete their college journey, and then the inspiration from that and just the excitement, it just woke up something in my spirit to go back. And from going back, it was like, even though the work was challenging, but I didn't regret it. It didn't seem difficult. It wasn't wearisome. It was just, as they say, a labor of love. So I enjoyed going to classes. I enjoyed my online classes. And from there, I tell people it had been 30 years since my returning in 2022. So from that 30-year span, I returned to Georgia State. And not only in 2022, I made the president's list. 2023, I was on the dean's list. In 2024, I graduated.
Wow.
So it's just been a remarkable journey, but I also know to where the credit truly goes and the glory. And so I just try to instill into people that I meet and share my story that an old saying that I grew up understanding and just stuck with me is that it goes that what God starts, He finishes.
Yes, He does.
And so from there, it's just been I mean, it's just been an amazing journey and
Yeah, one of my
experience.
favorite scriptures is, "He that begun a good work in me will
Mm-hmm.
complete it until the day of Jesus Christ."
Right.
Yeah, so as
Amen.
you were speaking, I thought about that scripture.
Right.
Amen. Well, balancing life's challenges, you started and stopped classes multiple times over the years. What were those challenges? What were the biggest challenges that delayed your degree? And well, and I guess maybe your children, because I was going to ask what were the ultimate things that gave you the biggest charge to push forward. So I guess you just answered that. Would it have been your father uh, and wanted to make him and your mom proud, and your boys, and you completing what you started?
Right. That was definitely a motivator because um, growing up, just a quick sidebar here. My mom used to joke with me. Things would come up and we would have family discussions, and so she made a comment one day that she thought that I always had the answer for things. So they just did a little inside joke about, uh, you know, the fact that uh, I had the wherewithal to try to answer things and be involved in things, and so they took that as a signal or a sign that perhaps they should also pour more into me to help me along my journey to for completing my education. So the other part of that, I think, that was important to understand and realize was that one of the times when I did have to pause my studies was the unfortunate accident uh, involving my little brother. And when he was 12 years old, he was on a work picnic at Lake Altoona, and unfortunately, he drowned. And that was the same time I had just restarted um, Georgia State after coming out of the military. So that semester there was when 2 weeks of completing that semester when that occurred. So I ended up, being unable to finish the finals, and so I ended up, starting. That's the first significant thing that happened that delayed my studies. And from there, a few years later, my wife and I relocated to the city of Chicago, and we stayed there for about 6 years. So that was another pause. And then after 6 years of being in Chicago, we decided to move back to Atlanta. And from there, I ended up being employed with DeKalb County, and which started the process of working and going to school part-time and uh, renewing my journey for going to school, but with a different angle this time, where I geared my studies toward management in order to seek more qualifications and opportunity at work.
So I was as I was listening to you talk just recently. I hosted I hosted a forum for a group of women, and we facilitated a forum that the title of it was From Setbacks to Success. And so often in our community, we allow our setbacks to cause us to lose hope in our dreams and our visions and our goals. And your story, it is so powerful in showing others the importance of not allowing our setbacks to cause us to lose focus on our goals and on our visions, but it should do what we talked about, which is allow our setbacks to propel us to success. Because from the setbacks, we should allow our resilience and our strength to propel us forward and not allow it to do what happens to so many people. A lot of times, your setbacks tend to discourage you to the point of giving up. And so, your story, as I listen to it, is such a story of hope, on so many levels, because you've raised successful, strong children, men, who are creating stories of legacy as well. You're healthy, because we have to now tell them about your health crisis in the middle of getting your degree. It's still so much that the viewing audience haven't heard still. They're looking now and it's like, oh, wow. And they don't know that you had health crisis in the middle and you still did it. So we're going to push forward to the next question, or the next part of the conversation. I wanted to see if you have anything to say, you may or you may not, about how getting married and drafted. You got married at 18. You got drafted right after at 19. How did that do you think you've said enough about that? How did that affect or shape your resilience and determination in pursuing your goal?
Well, for me, even though those were early life experiences and we were young, of course, as you alluded to, was that some way I was able to channel those experiences and setbacks to the point of understanding that I still had my dreams and aspirations of going to school, and so instead of having my life become unbalanced, I used it. I looked at both of them. I raised both of them up to the same level, and so I gave all my energies and my efforts equally to both. And so, because what I learned from doing that is that even though things will happen in our lives, there are opportunities still in the midst going on. And it's just, you brought an excellent point about how even in those setbacks, there are things where we can glean or take away from and still accomplish things. And so, so even at that age, and even with all that going on, my education was still paramount, but I also still tried to have a life balance. And so, at no point I think that I allowed it to overwhelm me. And so from there, I just tried to stay true to who I was and my goals, and so though those early years, we were able to manage them and come out still looking ahead.
Yeah, as we were as you were speaking, it was making me think about my own journey with getting married. We were a few years behind you all. He was a little older. I was 21, and we had children a little later than you all, but that was my motivator. My husband and my children. I was able to get my degrees earlier, but even raising the children, when you talk about legacy, and in some of the earlier episodes, my children are interviewed. It's something about when you look at them and you're raising children, or you're looking at your spouse and both of you are young. It's something about that that's motivating. I know that a lot of people don't get married young. Everybody's journey is different. We're not all meant to take the same journey. Everybody's story is different. Is our story your future? Everybody has different testimonies, and that's what makes this world so beautiful. But it's something about living your life for you and allowing it to encourage somebody else. So when you have these, either a spouse or a best friend or a child, watch your story and know that you're living your life to its fullest and you're making sure you're reaching your goals, setting them, and no matter the setback or the barriers in the way, and at whatever cost, no matter how long it takes you, making sure that you, if you can't move the mountain out of the way, you find a way around it. You know, if you can't find a way, you make a way. You know, if you don't know what to do, then fall on your face and pray until God gives you the answer. Whatever the cost, you know somebody's watching and somebody needs your story. You know, it's something about knowing somebody's watching. When I remember my little girl watching or my little boy crying because life was so hard even as a teenager and they needed you, you know, and they're watching everything you do. It's something about just knowing that they're watching and they need you. That's enough to make you do what you did at 72, or make, know that they're looking at your degree on the wall, or they're looking at you go to church every Sunday and know that's important to survive, to know that you have a relationship with God. And how do you have that? Because I make sure I'm going to church, just like we go to the movies, just like we're on vacation. Just all of that to have a balanced life. If we don't have money to go on a vacation or go out of the country, we're going to go to the beach over at Stone Mountain, to create a balance in life. So as I listened to you talk, I just was looking at what did we do to create legacy in our world. We just made sure that we demonstrated balanced living. And that was education, that was spirituality, that was family time, So I, appreciate just having you, in our life, because we're right behind you all. And even in the Black community, sometimes we don't have a lot to look at. And so knowing that we have you and Mrs. Moore to look at now, because we don't have a lot of strong marriages anymore. Either they've died off or, people just haven't sustained that anymore. It's encouraging to me to sit, and glean behind you all. So I'm so glad that we've made acquaintance in this season. So, health and determination. In 2023, you were diagnosed with prostate cancer. So, even with being diagnosed with prostate cancer, let's talk about how you maintained. How did you do it? Principles list. You stayed on principles list in the midst of getting your degree with a diagnosis of prostate cancer, and you did it. Tell me about that.
Okay. Uh, wow. I think the fact that, well, let me give you a quick backdrop. Another connection with my dad. In 2003, uh, my dad started experiencing health problems. Mm-hmm. So I went to a doctor visit with him. And so they ran tests and examined him. And while we were there, some of the test results came back. And so in talking with the doctor, that they determined at that point that he had prostate cancer. Oh, wow. And so what my diagnosis was in 2023. So immediately when I'm in the doctor's office, and fortunately I had my wife there with me, and when they told me my diagnosis, my mind went back to my dad's experience and that moment I was with him. And so I say all that to say this. My dad's initial reaction was he just thanked God for his family. That was the first thing came out of his mouth. He gave thanks to God for his family. And then the second thing he told the doctor was that his life had really been blessed. And from there, it seemed like a peace or a calm came into the room. And so then the doctor did his role and talked to him about his condition. And once he spoke with my dad about his condition, then the doctor turned to me. And he looked me straight on and he said, okay, so going forward, you are going to have to go every year for a prostate checkup and screening. He said, because if your dad, with his diagnosis, then that family history has been established for you. So that's my charge from that. And I guess it's just 20 years later, it came to fruition. And so on the way from the doctor's office, driving home, I was praying and my wife and I was in conversation. And once we got home, the very first thing I did was go into the house. I went to a closet. I closed the door and I got down on my knees and I prayed. And I prayed not a prayer of, why me, Lord? I prayed a prayer of thanksgiving. And I just thank God for the goodness that he had instilled in my life and my family. And I just thanked him for my dad's journey, and I just thanked him for the opportunity to know and trust in him through this process. And as I continued to pray, and once I finished, as I got up, stood up, off my knees, and standing straight up, it just felt like the whole world, the weight of the world had lifted off my shoulder. Beautiful. And so from that point there, once I had that moment, it seems like the old saying that sometimes I get the words kind of twisted, but I think it goes something like, I have cancer, but cancer doesn't have me. Mm-hmm. And so I took that moment and that peace to just continue on the best I could with everything that was before me. And based on the strength and my faith that I would be able to maintain and do the things I needed to do. And with the help of God's grace and mercy and the medical team, I have to give them, it's Emory Winship Cancer Center. I mean, those are some remarkable people. And so it's just that medical staff and just the hand of God allowed me to just stay focused, kept me upright. I mean, they told me about, because I had radiation treatments, they told me about fatigue and things like that. And I mean, loss of appetite. I mean, I didn't experience any of that. And so I just, even sitting here today, just so grateful. And so I'm just thinking that could have been another setback, but it was not. And like I alluded to, I mean, it didn't impact my studies. As a matter of fact, I made the best grades in college I ever made during those 3 years.
Wow. President's list.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, so that's what I try to share, and when I have opportunity to encourage people that regardless of what things look on the surface, look beyond. Yeah. Look beyond that, because there's so much more. And there's someone that has us that, that'll never fail us.
Yeah. I just love the fact that you could start a journey like that with, like your father, prayer of thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And I just think about the effectual, fervent prayer.
Right.
Of a righteous man. Right. I love it. Right. I love it.
Praise God.
All right. Well, we're almost getting to the end of the interview. Let's talk about the meaning of the degree.
Okay.
Okay, beyond the academic achievement, what does this degree represent for you personally?
Well, first, the fulfillment of the hopes and promises and dreams of my parents, as well as myself, was fulfilled. And then second, the utmost appreciation that was instilled in me about hard work, commitment, and seeing it through, regardless of age, time, or obstacles. And then lastly, just simply that I did it. And but one thing I would also like to share, a quote, and it's by Zig Ziglar. And he states that if you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you are determined to learn, no one can stop you.
Read that again.
If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you are determined to learn, no one can stop you.
Oh, I love it. I hear persistence all in that.
All in it.
Yeah, love it. That's good. So how do you want to use your degree and getting it at this age to inspire others?
Good
Just
question.
maybe with that quote.
Good
I
question.
guess.
That quote, and then the other part to that would be my initial goal of going to college. I wanted to be a teacher, and a special education teacher at that. So obtaining this degree, even at 72, it doesn't mean that I will become a teacher, but I meet the qualifications to teach. And even at that, there are programs that could put me on a path of being a teacher with my degree. So just that accomplishment alone, just kind of like brings it full circle for me and gives me enough appreciation and satisfaction of a job well done.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to pat your own self on the back.
Yes, yes.
And so that's what my feelings are about that.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And there are opportunities even now, and we could talk about that off camera.
Okay.
Because there are opportunities even now, with me being a teacher by profession, even though I don't do it full time. If that's a dream, there are opportunities now. If you do it 2 hours a week, there are opportunities where you can still fulfill that dream as well.
Wow.
They're paid or not paid,
Wow.
to
Okay.
go into the schools and do that, with your credentials. So, we can talk about that.
See, that's why I met you.
That's where I met you too. Looking forward to us continuing to
Right.
create
Exactly.
legacy.
Exactly.
Our story, your future. As we begin to wrap up, define legacy for me. Looking back at your future, what do you want people, especially your family and future generations, to remember most about you and your story as you define legacy?
In defining legacy, first I would say that it led to experiences and opportunities that along the way. Well, let me rephrase that. Defining legacy. I would think defining legacy and on my regard to my journey ties in with the fact that it allowed me to embrace being a person of faith. It allowed me to remain family focused, and then it allowed me to be a person of fulfillment. And so with those three things there, I think the fact that being persistent and being committed to my journey and my goals and my dreams help further define the importance of education was to me and my family. So, and the fact that I was in a position of being the last, so to speak, because my sons, my grandson, and then I. So the torch went the reverse order, but the praise goes because it went at all and it was done. And so I would think the legacy is that regardless of where you fall, or regardless of what occurs, regardless of what you achieve or don't achieve, that your goal and your dreams are enough to push you and keep you going if you're sincere. So following your heart is what I would entrust and share with people, that if you follow your heart, then God will do the rest.
I love it. I love it. And if you really heard what you said, the torch did start with you because you opened up the education avenue. You opened it up, but then you closed it. So you opened it up when you started it, you and your wife, you all started it, and you passed the torch. But then they passed it back to you.
Right.
You closed it, but then you're still passing it on for them to continue in it.
Right.
And that's what legacy is all about, starting it and continuing it. So I'm excited about continuing to hear the great things that you and the family will do. As we close out, give the viewing audience some advice. What advice would you give to someone who feels like it's too late for not only education, but for their dreams and their visions, for their future, for their children, for their family, and for those people that they're connected to, that they love? What advice would you give them for completing goals and the visions and dreams that they?
Well, I guess the advice I would share is that I believe that when we pursue our dreams or education, that we're opening doors and windows to opportunity and personal growth. And from that, our dreams also incorporate things that we love to do or that we can do well. So my advice is that if it's a matter of the heart or a matter of taking the next step or a matter of promotion, wherever you are in life, there's always opportunity to accomplish and achieve more. So with that, my advice would be that at wherever stage you are, there's no time greater than the present.
Oh, I love it. No time greater, and no matter what setbacks you've
Exactly.
had, there's no time greater than the present. Well, thank you. We know that this is the first of many conversations we will have. And thank you for tuning in today to Legacy Talk 3N. There you have the story from Mr. Henry Moore, our 72-year-old hero who has recently finished his bachelor's degree. And what was the
Interdisciplinary studies with law and society as a focus.
Interdisciplinary studies with law and society as a focus. And what he did was he took all of the different areas that he worked in and he incorporated them together. And he said, I'm going to take everything that I've studied and I'm going to see how I can put it in one capsule and get my degree. And that's what he did. And we are excited about what's to come. I did hear him say 3 words that are very important when creating legacy, and I'm going to leave you with that because it's his story and it's your future. When creating legacy, there are 3 things that are paramount: faith, family, and fulfillment.